and you can see. Oh. Okay, then probably watching the live stream won't work. So whoever's got the phone, I'll have them show you what's on the screen when we're talking about the screen.
Hang on a second. I do have a laptop in the truck. Let me grab it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, yeah, that way you can see what's happening on the screen more clearly.
Okay.
Perfect. You guys getting excited?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Anybody studying Hebrew?
No, sir.
Yeah. Oh, these guys are. All these guys are fluent in Hebrew now.
Well, great. We'll just hang with them.
They're not fluent in Hebrew. They know shalom, y'all. That's about it. So, so it's kind of like a Texan Hebrew. So there you go. Shalom, y'all. That's actually pretty popular there. They sell placards that say shalom, y'all. So make sure you pick one of those up when you're there. Well,
did you guys snow last week?
What's that?
Did you get snow last week?
Yes, we did. So, when someone says, I'll do that when hell freezes over, they owe you. It happened last week. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the Lord in prayer, and then we'll get started while David brings in the computer and gets set up over there. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this evening. We pray, Lord, that you'd be glorified here, that you would minister in power, Lord, that you would speak to our hearts. Give us wisdom in preparing, and show us, Lord, the things that you would have us to know for this trip, the things that you would have us to be cognizant of, and Father, help us to be prepared for this trip in a way that we don't have any distractions from what you're trying to do in our lives while we're there. We love you, Lord. We look forward to what you're going to do now, and we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So, oh, yeah, it did. It went to sleep, and I'm not sure why it did that. Oh, you know why? Because I'm not doing PowerPoint. I'm just doing my, wow, it looks like it went to sleep altogether. Hang on. Oh, there it goes. Okay. All right. So, okay, laptop should be up. And for some reason, let me get the browser resized here. So we fit the whole thing on there. There we go. Okay. And then, all right, is David back yet?
Yeah, I'm typing in your website now.
Okay, yeah, cclmountain.org, and then go to Media Live Stream. Oh, there's a live button right on the home page, he said.
Yeah. I taped it.
Okay. Tyra, anybody else coming in, or are we good? 2 more coming in? Okay, cool. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. And let me, Shelly, can I get you to sit up front here, and let me give you the phone? All right, I'm going to give Shelly the phone so she can kind of point it at me while we're talking. Okay, now, a few things I wanted to talk about tonight. The main reason for us gathering is so we can pray together. And when you came in, you were given kind of a stack of stuff. I'm going to go over with you what you've been given and go over with you a few things. So I've got a little agenda tonight, but our main reason for getting together is to pray, that we might spend some time just really praying together and kind of preparing ourselves spiritually for the things God has for us. Now, I brought a collection of things that I felt would be things that I found useful when I travel, and really not in order of importance, but things that may come in very handy. Now, probably the most important thing, and I brought a couple of different ones, the most important thing are these universal adapters. The plugs in Israel are the European plugs, the little round plugs. And so if you don't have a universal adapter, or at least a European plug to US plug shape, you'll be stuck using, the only power source you'll have is in the bathroom, which has a plug for razors, which allows you to plug in your regular plugs. But these are on Amazon. You'll find them for anywhere from $6 to $11 a piece. They're not real expensive, and they've got every kind of plug imaginable to be able to go from and to any kind of plug you want. And so you'll be able to plug in all your American plugs in Israel if you have one of these. And the newer ones that you'll find on Amazon all have not only plugs, but USB plugs. So you can charge your USB stuff right on them and save yourself from having to deal with adapters that way. Now, what I travel with is 2 of these. One, because I travel with my wife and she doesn't always bring her stuff. And the other one, I only need one, because the other thing I travel with that has been gold for me is a power strip. A travel power strip. They're small. They have the plug shapes for any kind of plug. Mine has 4 USB plugs on it, and it unravels to have a full-blown cord and everything so that you can plug it in. The one thing you'll find in Israel hotels is that there are very few outlets. It's finding a place to plug stuff in your room is a nightmare. Sometimes you have one plug by the bed and that's it. So if you have one of these, it'll save the day, because you'll have all kinds of plugs just from this. So I bring my universal plug and I plug my power strip into that, and then I don't need any more adapters because I can plug all my stuff into this and I'm good to go. And that's just a great way to travel. And so just Google travel power strip. I mean, Amazon, look on Amazon for travel power strips and you'll find them, again, anywhere between $10 and $20. Not real expensive, but if you have one of these and at least one power adapter, all your power needs will be met. Now, as I've mentioned, and I want to repeat this again, the electricity in Israel, well, almost the rest of the world, is 220 volts, not 110 volts like here, which means that you can't just bring your regular curling irons and flat irons and blow dryers and plug them in without giving them any thought. The beautiful thing is that nowadays, a lot of these curling irons and flat irons and blow dryers are coming out with universal power capability. How do you know if you have universal power capability? Well, every American sold appliance like this will have what's called a UL label. The UL label, and you need glasses or a magnifying glass sometimes to read these things, but it's a small label that tells you somewhere on that label that the voltage of this appliance. If this appliance says anything like 100 volt, 100V, 110V, 100-120V, you can only use it in the US. You cannot use it in Israel. You need it to say something like 100 to 240V or 110-220V or something like that on the UL label. Like this is Kathy's curling iron that I bought her to be able to take to the Philippines. And when you look at the UL label, it says 120-240V AC. That means it runs on any AC current, meaning you can plug it in, and it runs on US current 100 or 240 or 220, which is what they'll use in the rest of the world. So you need appliances that say that, or what you can do when you're shopping for these things is look for international curling irons or international flat irons and things like that on Amazon, and they'll give you a list of the products that work with the 220, 240 volt range. So if you don't have those things, I'm dropping my papers here. If you don't have those, if they're only 110, don't bring them, because best case scenario, they'll fry and never work again. Worst case scenario, you'll burn down the hotel. and I've had people come pretty close to doing that because they short out and start a fire. And so you don't want to do that. So if they don't say 220 or 240 volts on the UL label, just don't bring them. The beautiful thing is that most of your USB plug adapters, like, and I didn't bring mine with me, you know, the little adapters like the app that Apple gives you, almost every single one of those, I've never seen one that's not capable of working anywhere in the world. They're 110 to 240. So you should be able to bring any of your chargers and you're fine with that. So the hotels don't normally have blow dryers in them. Some do. It's hit and miss. So don't hold your breath. If you think you're going to need a blow dryer, go ahead and find one on Amazon that's 240 capable. Nice thing is, if you don't bring one, it'll only matter for about the first day. Because once you start walking all day and you find yourself exhausted after 2 or 3 days, you're going to be like, I don't care what I look like. And you'll get over it. So, but if you want your flat iron, your curling iron, make sure it's 220 capable. And then this is another, for those of you that actually care about your clothes, these are the latest, this is one of the newer steam irons you can find on Amazon that are 110 to 240. And so this is a great little deal for less than 20 bucks. I got this, and it's 120/240 VAC, so I can use it anywhere in the world. I put a little bit of water in here, and I've got a full-blown steam iron wherever I go. So handy little deal. You can't. It's hard to find irons in the hotels. Very rarely do you have, like in American hotels, you have the iron and the ironing board in your room. Good luck finding that anywhere else in the world. Now I travel with this most times, and if you don't bring one, I'll probably have mine. So, you know, if you end up in crisis, you can always borrow mine. Another couple important things, but not so important as the things I just showed you. Sunblock. You're going to be walking around outside all day in spring weather. Make sure you bring in your suitcase a jar of sunscreen, sunblock, a can of spray sunblock, something so you're not getting fried all day. Make sure you bring some sunblock. And then these are a couple handy little items. This is an iPhone pouch. You can find them again on Amazon for like 10 bucks, and they're meant for like submerging your iPhone in a pool and keeping it dry. I actually snorkeled with mine, and it worked great, but I don't recommend nowadays when iPhones are costing $1,000 plus that you purposely stick it in water no matter what it's in, you know. But this is handy if we're out walking in the rain. And, you know, I do recommend bringing a small travel umbrella with you, but if you're out walking in the rain, you don't want your phone getting wet, put it in one of these, and then you don't have to worry about it. It's a no-brainer. You won't need your phone during the day unless you're somehow a surgeon who's, you know, somehow getting important calls while we're there, but you won't need it unless you're using it as a camera. But if you're using your phone as a camera, this is a handy little deal to let you use it in the rain and keep you from ruining it. So encourage you to invest in one of these little pouches. And then this is a little $2 rain poncho, and you can pick these up at Walmart. It's like a trash bag that's neatly folded, which makes it easy to travel with. So, but it's a little rain poncho, and you never know when you're going to get caught in the rain. We're going in spring, so you never know when you're going to get caught in the rain, and why let that mess up our good day of touring, you know? So bring a little rain poncho like this. I found that if you have a little rain poncho like this and an umbrella, you really don't get wet at all. If you're out touring during the day in the rain, and it doesn't stop us from traveling. So invest in a little $2 rain poncho. And then I told you about Hezekiah's Tunnel, and when we do Hezekiah's Tunnel, it's dark, and I don't recommend using your iPhone for a flashlight, unless you have a waterproof case, you can do that. But one way that I like to go through Hezekiah's Tunnel without having to occupy my hands with anything is having one of these little lamps. And you can pick these up at Lowe's or Home Depot. They're always right there next to the flashlights, and they're really cheap. They're, you know, $5-10 because they're really just work lights. And so they're real handy. Mine has like little 3 settings, so you can go, you know, bright, medium, and low. And You know, I think this was like $7 or $8, and handy little deals, you know. And so you only use it once, okay, you spent $7, $8. But for you guys who work in the garage, these are real handy after you come back, because you can use them in the garage when you're working in low light areas, and you'll wonder how you ever lived without them. They're really, really useful to use in the garage. And then the other thing I want to remind you about is making sure that you not only bring comfortable walking shoes for walking all day, and don't buy new ones right before we leave. If you're going to buy new ones for the trip, buy them now and break them in. But don't buy them right before we go, because you might find that no matter how nice they are, they're not made for your feet, and they really hurt you. So if you're going to buy new ones, buy them now and break them in, but make sure you have comfortable walking shoes, and then either a pair of flip-flops or a pair of water shoes. I recommend flip-flops because if we have any time to sit around the pool, then they get kind of double duty. You can use them by the pool, and you can use them to walk through Hezekiah's tunnel. But water shoes work great too, and they're a lot more comfortable to walk through Hezekiah's tunnel because you don't have to worry about them slipping off your feet when you're walking through the tunnel. The tunnel's pretty smooth, and you know, it's a big flat little tunnel, but there's water moving under your feet, and flip-flops could come off in the current. So water shoes work better, but you can manage it with flip-flops just fine. I know I've done it with flip-flops a few times, and it's never been a problem. So those are the things that I recommend. On top of that, I would recommend that you be familiar with what your weight limits are for your bags. Carry on with El Al and JetBlue. They won't hassle you on carry-on weight, because Asian airlines tend to do that, but not European airlines or Israeli airlines. But for your check bag, are we limited to 50 pounds? 50 pounds is your weight limit, so make sure you're not close to 50 pounds. Just stay away from that weight, and you should be fine. In fact, I recommend you keep it down around 40, because if you come back with souvenirs, you're easily going to jump over 50 pounds just with the stuff you bring back. So I do recommend you leave yourself room to add to your luggage when you get back. Now, let's go over the paperwork you have. And one of the things I have a note to talk to you about for myself is Tyra is going to be meeting you at the airport when we go to the airport. And so she wants you to have her cell phone number. You already have her email address, right? Everybody has Tyra's email address? Yes? Okay. So she wants you to have her cell phone number, so if you have any problems, you can text her or call her, and she can help you out. So her cell phone number is 702. You guys in Texas, write this down too, in case you have any major stuff on the way there, because she'll be at the airport and won't be able to take office calls. 702-375-5762. 702-375-5762. Tyra Cook, C-O-O-K. Make sure you have that cell phone number handy. I'll talk to you about the travel process, the check-in process in a minute, and kind of walk you through the whole thing and all the details of the trip. But I want to show you, before we do that, let me go through the paperwork, and I want to show you the websites for El Al and JetBlue and kind of walk you through what you can and cannot do there. First of all, you've been given from Tyra, everybody has received your itinerary. Your itinerary, which is customized for you, has your travel dates and then your airline confirmation codes. Some of you have the same airline confirmation code for all the flights. Some of you have different confirmation codes for the first flight and the fourth flight. For you guys that joined us later, your bookings were done separately. Even though they're all done through El Al, you get different confirmation codes for El Al and for JetBlue. But most of you have, if you have one confirmation code, that's an El Al confirmation code. If you have two confirmation codes, the first and the fourth are JetBlue. and the second and third are El Al. Does that make sense? Do you see your confirmation codes? Anybody having problems with that? Are we okay? Okay. So after that, you have departure times for each flight and arrival times, and then you have your seat number. Now, I went on there and handpicked all your seat numbers. So if you don't like them, blame me. I tried to seat you guys together and tried to make sure you were flying with people you know or like. Not for you Texas guys. Emma did you, so blame her if you don't like what you got. But for the Las Vegas people, I picked all your seats and tried to seat you with who I thought you wanted to be by and things like that, or who I wanted you to meet or something like that. I'm not opposed to you changing your seats. I have no problems with that. But I'm going to talk to you about a few things you need to understand before you change anything. And I need you to listen carefully when I explain to you some of these things about changing seats so you don't mess anybody else up. Because you can. You'll have the power to mess people up, and I don't want you to do that. Now, the only thing on this piece of paper that Tyra gave you with your itinerary that is really hard and fast is your confirmation number. Your confirmation number is your confirmation number. It's going to be the same. But flight numbers sometimes get changed by the airlines. Flight times get adjusted by the airlines and things like that. Seat numbers will stay the same. Seat numbers and confirmation numbers will stay the same unless you change your seat number. And I'm going to show you how to do that, but I'm going to show you what not to do when you do that as well so that you don't mess anybody else up or mess yourself up in the process of trying to change your seat. So any questions on the flight itineraries? Any difficulty with that, understanding that? Okay, this is a very important piece of paper that gives you power and has a lot of information that you're going to need. So don't lose this piece of paper. It's a great piece of paper for you. Now, explaining to you how to do things. This is the El Al website here on the screen, and this is their home page. If you have a bigger screen, this is unfortunately only 1024 by 768. If you have a bigger page, it'll lay out a little bit differently, and you'll see all of this check-in, manage my booking stuff actually up here at the top. But look for the manage my booking tab. Notice I didn't go to the check-in tab. You're not going to check in online. And the reason you're not going to check in online is because we start with JetBlue, and they're not going to let you check in online on JetBlue or on El Al because you're going to go international from the place you start. So you guys flying out of Austin are going to be international passengers as of Austin. So they're not going to let you check in online. You have to check in at the airport with your passport in hand. That doesn't expire for 6 months from the time our trip is over. So make sure your passports don't expire within 6 months of when we get back. But you need to have your passport handy and your confirmation number when you get to the airport because you're going to be international when you get there. And you're going to check your bags when you get to the airport. For you guys here at Terminal 3 at McCarran, Terminal 3 is where you're going to go to the JetBlue counter, and you're going to check your bags there, and you're not going to see your bags until Tel Aviv. They're checking all the way through. So don't think you're going to get something out in New York. Make sure whatever you're going to need in New York is in your carry-on, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So ignore the check-in section of both JetBlue and El Al's websites. But for El Al, you have this Manage My Booking button. This is where you'll go to deal with changing your seats. And so I've got Tyra's itinerary right here. And what I do is I go here under reservation code and I put in her confirmation number. Oops. Boy, it did something weird there. XVI. A-U-Q. Okay, and then down here I put her last name, and it's not case sensitive, it doesn't care. And then I log in. I did the JetBlue confirmation code. You see, if you do the wrong confirmation code, that's what happens to you. So now let's do the right confirmation code for El Al. And now we log in as Tyra. And then as I scroll down here, wait till it finishes showing up. Any minute now. Come on. You know, I actually tested this morning to make sure I could show you this tonight. And now it's going to do this to me. What's it doing? Let's see here. Let me try refreshing. Now it's doing something. There we go. Okay. Okay, so now, it's the first thing it's going to do is going to give you this thing. You are eligible for an upgrade. You can click on this Make an Offer button, and you can bid on upgrading to business class or first class on your El Al flights. Now, if you want to do that, feel free to do that. Just know that their bidding starts around $800, and they said you're not even a shoo-in to get the bid or to get the upgrade until about $1,200 or $1,400 per leg of the flight. So if you want to upgrade from New York to Tel Aviv, it'll cost you about $1,200, and same thing coming home. But you have that option. Otherwise, click on the X at the top and ignore that. That's an option you have, and if you want to do that, I'll come visit you and wave at you in business class, you know, and then go back to my lowly seat in the back. You know? So, and I don't think, looking at the picture, I don't even think the business class seats are sleepers. So I think they're just good recliners, which I wouldn't pay $1,200 for a recliner with sleepers out there. And I'm just kind of spoiled. So now if you scroll down, this is what you need to understand. Look up here. I put up Tyra's confirmation code under her name, but notice it has both Tyra and Penny on this itinerary. That's because their tickets were bought together. A lot of you, your tickets were bought with other people. So you have, if you're not careful, the ability to mess them up. Don't mess with their flights. Unless they say, hey, please mess with my flight. Please change my seat. Help me. Don't touch their flight. Because more than one of you are on the same confirmation number, even if you put your own last name in. I know Sue and Shelley are together, and I think there's somebody else with you. I think Pamela's with you guys on yours. So just be careful you don't mess with anybody else's flights. As you scroll down, this is why, another reason I want you to see this, even if you don't change your seat, a couple of days before we fly, you want to go here and check out your departure times. Make sure everything stayed the same. So you go here and it shows you your departure time for your Las Vegas folks is 12:21 out of McCarran, Terminal 3, and then you'll fly out of JFK at 8:30, Terminal 5, and you're going to on JetBlue Airways to New York, or you're landing in Terminal 5. We fly out of Terminal 4, which, by the way, that means when you land, you're going to be traveling over to another terminal. Now, you Austin folks, I don't know what terminal you land at. Chances are it's not going to be Terminal 4 because that's an international terminal. So you'll probably have to go over to Terminal 4, and it's not, you know, someone was asking me, what are we going to do with 3 hours in New York? Believe me, that's not a lot of time when you're trying to make it over to another terminal at JFK. You may have an hour hour and a half to play, and that'll just be time to go eat and get something to drink and go get refreshed in the restroom before we board our flight to Tel Aviv. So it's not a whole lot of playtime when you deal with going international, especially with Israel, which I'll talk to you about in a second. So then down here, as you scroll down, and this is all of your flight information and where it comes from and where it goes to in detail, which is great information. And then down here at the bottom, it has all your seat numbers. And so you can see where you're seated. If you have two confirmation numbers, and if you are flying with a different confirmation number for JetBlue and for El Al, then your first and fourth flight will say unspecified for your seat number. Don't let that freak you out. That just means El Al doesn't know what seats you're sitting on the JetBlue flight. And so you can, when we go to the JetBlue site, you'll see where your seat is on the JetBlue plane. You do have seats on your JetBlue flights. Don't be afraid if you see unspecified here and freak out. This is the El Al website, and they don't know where you're seated on JetBlue. If you have one confirmation number, I believe all your seat numbers will be listed here, including the JetBlue flights, and so you should be able to see all your seats here. I actually didn't check that to confirm that, but you can check that on your own. And then, as far as changing your seats on El Al, if I remember how to do it, you can click on the seat number. And so notice I'm only on Tyra's. I'm not touching Penny's. And they're seated together, so they would be mad if I mess them up. But by clicking on her seat, it shows me what seats are selected, and it shows me on the plane what seats are available, the blue ones. And so I can go in and click on any of these other seats and move Tyra to wherever I want to move her. And for those of you wanting to move up to the front, there aren't any seats up in the front, so good luck with that. But this is the New York to Tel Aviv flight, and you've all got pretty good seats on that flight. You're all kind of in the same area together. If you upgrade, that's between you and the airline. I believe you can actually pay for upgraded seating with El Al, but you have to call the airline, call El Al, and ask them how much it'll cost you to upgrade, and they'll give you the price, and then they'll tell you what's available. And I don't have El Al's phone number, so I can't help you there. But for those of you that want to upgrade your seating, just deal with El Al. You can Google their phone number. Just Google call El Al, and it'll give you their phone number to call them. So that's it for El Al. And once I close this here, I'm back on the main page. And right here, I can click on Modify. Oops. I believe this is where you go to find special diet information. So if I remember right. Yeah, here you go. Meal preferences. So here's your seat numbers, but also here's your meal preferences for the New York to Tel Aviv and the Tel Aviv to New York flights. You'll find the El Al flights. You can choose if you need a special meal, like a vegetarian meal or a kosher meal, whatever. You can select that here. Right now, you are all set, unless you changed it, to receive standard meals, which means you're not getting a diabetic meal, you're not getting a kosher meal, you're not getting a vegetarian meal. If you need to change that, if you have dietary restrictions, this is where you do that. Click on that Modify button, and it'll bring you to this page, and this is where you change it. Okay, any questions on that so far? Any questions on El Al's webpage? Okay, if you have problems with this, try just going to elal.com and click on Manage My Booking and jump through all the hoops. And if you can't do it, just talk to me after a service or ask Pastor David. And if he can't figure it out, he can FaceTime me and I'll walk you through it. Be glad to help you out with this. Now let's go over to JetBlue. If you have a separate JetBlue confirmation, then this is JetBlue's website. Oh, this is El Al. Never mind. Here's JetBlue. I was going to say, wow, that looks just like El Al. JetBlue at the top has check-in. Again, ignore check-in. You will not check in online. You will check in at the airport when you get there because you're going international when you get to the airport. So don't try to check in online. Just go there. Also, a lot of you, when you get into your JetBlue webpage, it'll tell you that there's information missing. You need to fill out all the information. Don't do that. Why? Because if you do, you're wasting your time. It won't record it because your flight is booked through El Al. It won't record your updated information when you give them your updated information. If they need information from you, they will get it at the airport. So don't try to update your web page information. Worry about it when you get to the airport. Let them deal with it there. You're fine. You are all set to fly. You're all good. As long as your passports are current, and Tyra made sure your passports are all current, you're all good to go. So don't try to fix anything on the web page, like if that's going to mess you up. Anything they need fixed, they'll fix when you get to the airport. So don't worry about that. So ignore that. But right here at the top of the page, you see this button that says My Trips? That's where you go to update your information. So you have Manage Trips, check in, ignore that, and Flight Tracker. So go to Manage Trips. When you go to Manage Trips, it'll ask you for upcoming travel down here to use your confirmation code. By the way, if you want to sign up, if you plan on doing more JetBlue flying or El Al flying, then go ahead and sign up for their frequent flyer clubs and keep these miles. Use these miles for later. They're beneficial to you if you plan on using them again. If you don't plan on using them again, they're not worth a whole lot. But I will tell you, next year, El Al is going to start flying direct to Tel Aviv out of Las Vegas. So if you think you might go back, then El Al is going to be an amazing way to do it. So it might be good to sign up for their frequent flyer club, which is called a MATMID flyer, M-A-T-M-I-D flyer club. It might be worth signing up for because those miles may come in handy if you decide to do this again. So just saying, it doesn't hurt you to sign up. It's free, and you might as well get the miles. If you sign up, then when you get to the airport, bring your sign up, your membership number, and have them add that for you, and that will count, and that'll benefit you later if you do that. So what I'm doing is just going in without signing up to their account and just going over to the confirmation code. So now I'm using the TrueBlue confirmation code, because if you have the one confirmation code, you do not have you don't have to come here at all. What I'm saying to you is just what I'm saying right now is just for those that have two confirmation codes. So we have Tyra again, and we go find flight, and again, there's not a lot you can do here. Now, here's the thing with JetBlue. None of you can change your JetBlue seats online. Because it's booked through El Al, they just won't let you do it. So here's what you're going to need to change your JetBlue seats, and you can upgrade with JetBlue. I'm going to give you, first of all, on your what I want you to do is write down on your piece of paper there, on your itinerary, JetBlue's phone number is 1-800-538-2583. 1-800-538-2583. And then when you get the recording, hit option 2 and wait till you get a live person. That's how you change your seating or upgrade your seating on the flight. Your upgrade options on JetBlue, you can upgrade to what they call they call it even more space seating, which is kind of like Economy Plus with United. It just gives you a few more inches of leg room, gives you a little more recline. Actually, they said it's the equivalent of business class, which I don't know about that, but they said it's the equivalent of business class. So, but that's $70, and they don't have any aisle seats going to JFK. So if you want an aisle seat and you want to upgrade, forget it. You might still be able to get a window seat, but if you want to upgrade your seating, it's $70, and you have to call them to upgrade. If you just want to change your seat say I want to sit closer to the front or whatever, or I don't like the window seat, I want an aisle seat or whatever, you still have to call them. Call that number, and when you get somebody on the phone, just tell them, hi, I'm on this flight, I'm booked through El Al, and so I can't change my seat on the website. Can you change my seat for me? And they'll say, yes, I'd be glad to change your seat for you, and they'll help you out. So give them the information they need and do that. You can also upgrade to first class, which I did not get a price on, but if you want to do that, they call it mixed suites seats. Mixed suites. I don't know what that means, but that's their first class, and when you call them, you can get prices on upgrading to first class if you want to do that as well. You know, I know some people like to do that, especially if this is like a big romantic anniversary trip for them, or if they have health problems and they don't want to be uncomfortable for that long. We're sitting what's called the core seats, which is just regular seating. And again, we handpicked your seats there, and you have decent seats, but if you don't like the seats, then you need to call them and deal with that. So now let me talk to you about the travel process. And any questions on what we've talked about so far? Okay, when you call JetBlue, make sure you have your confirmation number ready for them so that they can help you out with your seating. Now, arriving at the airport, because you are going international at your first airport, you need to be at the airport 3 hours before your flight. Yes, that is not a typo. You need to be at the airport 3 hours before your flight, and it's not just us being overcautious. JetBlue will not accept bags for check-in for international travel less than 2 hours before the flight. So you need to be there 3 hours ahead of time so we can get you checked in and through the whole process without a big hitch. And Tyra can actually probably get you in as a group, and it'll be a lot easier if we're all there 3 hours before the flight. So make sure you come 3 hours before flight. Somebody asked if they needed to bring their driver's license. You do not need to bring your driver's license if you're not driving to the airport. If somebody's driving you to the airport, and I hope you are, they are, because it costs a lot to park there for a long time. But if you're not driving to the airport, just bring your passport. Don't worry about your driver's license. You don't need it. If you do bring your driver's license and plan to use it for ID anywhere in the U.S., in the airports nowadays, it has to be a real ID. It can't just be a regular driver's license. It has to be a real ID. So even if you don't have a real ID, you're wasting your time bringing a driver's license to the airport anyway. So just bring your passport, stow your driver's license at home, and it'd just be one less thing you have to lose on the trip, right? So don't even worry about bringing it. But you need to be there 3 hours before the flight, and then Tyra will meet you there at Terminal 3 at JetBlue. I'm assuming Pastor David's going to meet you guys at the Austin airport. It's a JetBlue check-in there, and you'll go international there as well. So just get to JetBlue at the Austin, as far as liquids are concerned, but they just say 3 ounces for us Americans because we're too dumb to figure out 100 milliliters. But the law is 100 milliliters is what you're restricted to. So make sure all of your liquids are 100 milliliter or smaller bottles. Let me tell you a few, for those of you who use a lot of hairspray or a lot of gel or something, some liquid that you're worried about running out of on the trip, you can have 2 or 3 100 ml bottles of hairspray. It's okay anymore. Security's low at the airports. They don't restrict you to a 1-quart Ziploc bag worth of liquids anymore. They don't make sure it's in a 1-quart Ziploc bag. But Israel can be a little picky sometimes. So you're wise, that's perfect. But you might want to put it in a Ziploc bag anyway, a 1-quart Ziploc bag in that bag. Bring that up here, Bert. Bert's got a little travel bag that is really kind of about the perfect size. But again, I would put my liquids in a Ziploc bag in that bag. And that way, when you get to Israel, if they're being picky, that's kind of feminine looking, Bert.
Well, I was worried about it when I picked it up.
So Bert's got this little travel bag that actually has liquid containers in it. And these actually look small. They don't look like they're 100 mil containers. Oh, yeah, they're 70 mil. Yeah. So these are 70 mil. But again, you can bring up to 100 mil containers, and they sell individual 100 mil travel containers at Walmart too. So you can only on your carrying liquids, big bottles of hairspray or whatever. Put in your check bag, and you're good to go. But I would say if you're going to put it in a check bag, put it in one of those gallon Ziploc bags, because when the pressure blows it open in your suitcase, you're going to be wearing hairspray on your clothes every day. So just make sure any liquids you put in your bag are nice and sealed in your suitcase so that if they do break open or blow open, they don't end up all over your clothes, okay? So, but bigger containers, put them in your check bag. For traveling, bring a travel toothpaste, bring a travel razor. Don't bring nail clippers or scissors, no matter how small, in your carry-on. And if you're one of those people who has to have a water bottle with you, you can bring the water bottle, but make sure it's empty. You can fill it once you pass security, but it's got to be empty to go through security. So if you're going to bring a water bottle, now I will say, you know, Kathy brought a water bottle last time, and she ended up keeping the empty water bottle in my carry-on bag the whole trip because she didn't need it and she didn't want to put it in her bag. So it ended up in my bag, which is fine. That's great. But I'm just saying you don't need it. Once you get on the plane, they give you all the water you need, all the water you want. And once we're flying, they usually keep bottles of water in the back that you can actually go to the galley and help you from avoiding deep vein thrombosis by getting up a lot to get water and use the restroom, but it will help you with jet lag later. A lot of fluids help you avoid bad jet lag later on. Jet lag won't normally be bad going that way because you'll be too busy to be jet lagged, but when you come back, it can be pretty brutal. So I do recommend a lot of fluids while you're flying. So Bert, thank you. I'll put this up here for you. And don't forget it. And then once you get to JFK, like I said, you've got 3 hours, and who knows, maybe the flight will get there early because going to the East Coast, you usually have a tailwind, so you usually do get there early. So if we get there early, that's great. But once you get to, oh, I never did finish this process. I'll be here in a sec. I'll come back to this in a sec. Once you get to JFK, I want everybody to go to the departure gate. That way, Tyra can see everybody and say, okay, we're all here. Everybody's here. She'll see all of you Las Vegas people at the airport in McCarran, so she'll know you all got on the plane. But when we get to New York, knowing that you got to the gate will give her peace of mind. And then for you Texas folks, if you'll meet Tyra at the departure gate in Terminal 4, then she'll know you guys got there okay and she can rest easy. Once we all meet at the gate, then whatever time you have left, you'll have plenty of restaurants around there and restrooms and all that to go spread your legs, go use the restroom, go freshen up, whatever you need to do, and then just be back to board when they open the gate. Now, you will probably, and 99% of the time, you'll have additional security to get on an Israeli plane. It's not the regular airport security. Israel actually has their own security for getting on their plane. So to get into the boarding gate, which normally they don't let you into the boarding gate till about an hour before the flight, to get into the boarding gate, you do have to go through their security. And their security is a lot stricter than our security. They will open every one of your carry-on bags and look inside and check it and make sure there's nothing weird. So if you comply with American travel restrictions, you're fine with them. But if you didn't comply and you got away with it with the U.S. people, you won't get away with it with the Israeli people. They will find whatever doesn't comply. But they're going to scrutinize you. It's not personal. It's just what they do for their own security. And you'll have to go through that to get on the plane. Just saying. So once you get on the plane, it's a normal flight. There will be a flight attendant early in the flight walking down the aisles handing out immigration paperwork. Make sure you get that immigration paperwork and fill it out sometime before you land. Fill out all the information on the immigration paperwork so that when you land, you'll have all your paperwork ready. When you land, you'll walk to through the long hallways all the way to immigration, and then you'll go through the immigration process. It's one of the stricter immigration departments I've ever been to in the world. They'll ask you a lot of questions. Just answer the questions honestly and let them know you're here as part of a tour group. I'll be there before you, so I'll actually we'll be out in the baggage claim area, but you can tell them our leader's out there, and if they want to know, well, who you're traveling with, you can point to Tyra and say, Tyra's our group leader leading us here, and they'll say, okay, and they'll want to probably ask Tyra some questions about the group and where we're from and all that, but just make sure you answer everything honestly. We're not doing anything wrong. They want us there. And so just give them your passport, give them immigration paperwork, answer the questions. Once you get through immigration, then you'll go to baggage claim. Pull your bag, and then go through customs. Once you go through customs again, don't feel bad. If they pull you out, some of you, how many of you have foreign nationals? How many of you have foreign passports other than U.S. passports? Any of you? Okay, they still may pull you out. If you've got a Middle Eastern sounding last name, or if you, maybe even your name looks familiar to somebody under a watch list, looks close, similar to somebody under a watch list, they'll pull you out. And they'll bring you back into a private room and they'll screen you. Don't let that scare you. It's just part of their process. They're going to ask you some additional questions and just kind of, make sure you are who you say you are and not some kind of a fraud trying to sneak in with the group or anything like that. And then they'll bring you out to join us out at baggage claim. It's okay. And then once you get your bag, go through customs, and then we'll meet you right outside of customs. I'll be there with Rivka, our guide, and we'll meet you there and get you on the bus and pour you in a bed as quickly as we can. So after that, you'll enjoy the trip, and it's going to be a blast. You're going to have so much fun in Israel. You're not going to believe that you're going to feel like it's illegal to have so much fun. I mean, you're going to have this is going to be the trip of a lifetime for you. You're going to be blown away at how incredible this trip is. So once we come back, when we come back to the airport, we're going to go through Israeli security. And Israeli security leaving the country makes Israeli security coming into the country look weak. I mean, they are just tough. They ask all kinds of questions. If they think they can interrogate you and make you nervous, they'll make you nervous just to make you say the wrong things. And they can, and then they can press you, and it's kind of nerve-wracking if you don't know what's coming. But Rivka will tell you what not to say and what to say, and that way you'll know exactly how to avoid getting scrutinized, getting special attention from their security. Once they acknowledge that you are part of the trip and you're not carrying any, what do you call that, contraband, then they'll let you go and they'll thank you for coming to their country. But we do get there at least 3 hours before that flight because it does take a while to get through the security process. And so once you're through the security process, then we'll get on the plane like any other flight, and we'll fly back to JFK, and that's when we'll part company from you Austin folks, and you'll head to your gate to go back to Texas, and we'll head to our gate to come back to Las Vegas, and then we'll get back home at a decent hour so you can get a shower and go to bed and try to recover for life the next day. So that's really about it for traveling. Let me go over the JetBlue website with you real quick, and that way you can see what you're doing there. When I logged into JetBlue with Tyra's confirmation code, it gave me her seat numbers down here for the first and fourth flight. They don't know her El Al flight seats, so they don't have anything about those flights. But it gives me her JetBlue seats. And so if you don't have JetBlue seats listed on your El Al website, go to the JetBlue website and see if they're listed there. And then you should also know that you're on there with whoever else your ticket was bought with. So this is Tyra and Penny on this itinerary. So make sure that if you're trying to make changes, that you're not messing with anybody else's itinerary. The important thing for this website is a couple days before we take off, you want to go here and go to your flights. After you log in, it'll give you this My Booking page. Scroll down to your flights, and you'll see your date of departure and your time of departure and all your flight numbers. Make sure that those are what you expect them to be. Make sure that they're the same as what's on your itinerary. And if they're different than what's on your itinerary, change what's on your itinerary, because that's the most current time of departure, and that's the information you want to go by. So that's why you need to go to the JetBlue website. Now, before we get into our prayer time, another piece of paper that is in the stack of paper that Tyra gave you is a prayer list that one of your teammates put together for you for traveling. And so this gets us on the same page what to pray for every day for the trip. This gives you, starting March 21st, a prayer item for the trip for every day leading up to the day we leave. So these are the things we're praying for the trip. If you have other things that God's laying on your heart, pray for them too. But this prayer list will give you something to pray for specifically starting March 21st for every day of the trip, every day leading up to the trip, so that we can keep this trip bathed in prayer. Now, before we get into our prayer time, are there any questions? There are no dumb questions. If you have questions, ask them. Blair? They're not 110 or 240 because they're just pass through. And so the strip, unless, and this is what you have to be careful of, if it has surge protection, then it is either 110 or 240. So 220, 240, they go to 240 volts. They call it 100 to 240, or because it's really 110 volt is really 120 volt, and 220 volts is really 240 volts. So you hear them spoken of differently in different circles. What do you got there, Bert? A universal plug? Yeah, if it's surge protected, make sure that it handles 240 volts. So Bert has a universal plug here that is you must have bought this at Walmart, right? Yeah. So this has the one plug on the back, and then it has different outlets that you can put on the front for whatever your power is. So this was actually set up for Israel already on the back. And this works, but the ones on Amazon that have the multi-plugs and the USB plugs for about $10 are probably a little more versatile for what you're doing. So you might actually want to look at some of the ones on Amazon, and I'll show you some of them, Bert, that might work a little better than that, because that's a lot of little parts to travel around with. The only one you need is the one that's connected to it right now, though, Bert. The little one with the two little round prongs. That's the only one you need for the trip. The other ones you can leave at home, because that's Israel power, is the two little round prongs. So that'll work for you, and that's all you really need to switch over. A lot of people ask about the step-down transformers to bring your 110 stuff and just bring a transformer to step it down. Be careful with those for a few reasons. One, they're heavy, and so they take up a lot of weight in your suitcase. And two, they don't usually handle the amperage that you need to run a blow dryer or a curling iron or things like that. So it's better to go ahead and buy a 240 capable curling iron or blow dryer and use it. Buy one that works here and there so that you don't just use it once, but invest in that, and that way anytime you travel, you'll have a blow dryer or a curling iron or whatever that you can use anywhere in the world. Yes, ma'am. Tennis shoes are great. In fact, if you've got comfortable tennis shoes, they will become your best friend on this trip. The kind that breathe well are even better if you've got really good breathing shoes, because you are walking a lot, and it's going to get in the high 70s and even low 80s during the day, so it's going to be kind of warm. Yes. Yes. When you go to the Western Wall, you'll need a head covering for the ladies. And for the men, too. You'll need a head covering. They'll loan you a yarmulke, or for the ladies, a shawl. But I just recommend you bring a scarf or something that you can put over your head when we go to the Western Wall. You know what day it is we're going to the Western Wall ahead of time, so just make sure you have that in your day bag. I do recommend in your suitcase that you pack a small little day bag that you can bring on the bus with you during the day. You know, a little backpack, or those little cute little triangle-shaped ones that go over one shoulder, those kind of things. So it's something that you can bring on the bus with you, with a bottle of water and, a change of shoes or a change of socks, or, and some snack bars and stuff. Bring a lot of snack bars, power bars, things like that. Those are really a blessing in the middle of the day when we're not stopping to eat, but you've been walking all day and you've got a bit of an appetite and get that little sugar rush. So make sure you have a little day bag to bring that stuff. As far as water during the day, the bus driver will have water on the bus that they sell for $1 a bottle. So if you don't want to bring a water bottle, there'll be plenty of water available for you. Just bring a lot of dollar bills to use for that during the day. And you can refill your bottle. After you just buy one for the day, you can always refill it. But I mean, if you don't mind spending $3-4 a day and just buying bottles of water when you need them, you just grab them. It's honor system. You throw $1 in the basket and take a bottle of water, and you're good to go. So however you want to do that. What's that? The bus driver will do U.S. dollars. You will not do U.S. dollars in Israel as a general rule. Israel uses the Israeli shekel. And the Israeli shekel it's not like a lot of countries that they go, oh, we take dollars too. Some places do, like the marketplaces, but they won't necessarily give you the going exchange rate. So I do recommend if you're gonna want to buy some souvenirs, some gifts, depending on what your budget is, that you bring $100 or $200 or so and exchange at the airport. Exchange at the airport. That's where you'll get pretty much the best rate on shekels, and so exchange at the airport. That way you're covered. If you don't exchange enough, then I do recommend that you just exchange enough to get through Jerusalem. And two things you'll be able to do if you run out of shekels. Once we get some free time, there are some exchange places in Jerusalem and in Tel Aviv, so you'll be able to do some exchanging. The hotels usually do exchanging, but not at a great rate, but they do exchanging at the hotels. Make sure what you bring is crisp bills, 20s or 100s, crisp new bills, pretty new. Anything marked up and stuff they won't take, or dog-eared. So make sure your currency you bring is in pretty good shape. But do your exchanging. Some people want to do exchanging here in the U.S. before they go. Don't do it. You will get ripped off so bad. The exchange rate you get here is always a fraction of the going exchange rate. So wait till you get there to exchange for shekels. Don't do it here. In Tel Aviv, at the airport, there's banks set up for doing currency exchange, and that's usually the best place to do it. There are other places, but that's usually where you get the best rate on your shekels. Yes, sir. You can't exchange with a credit card. You bring U.S. cash to do exchanging at the exchange banks. You can use, and this is the other thing I was going to tell you about, if you run out of shekels, there are several ATMs that use Star and use Plus, which are the main ATM companies. All your banks are tied to Star and Plus. So you can use your ATM all over Israel, but when you use your ATM there, know two things. One, what's going to come out of the machine is shekels. You're not going to get US dollars out of the ATM machine. You're going to get shekels, so make sure you know how much a shekel's worth when you put your card in the ATM, so you know how much you're getting out of your own bank. Second, you are subject to the exchange rate of your bank, which is normally close to the going exchange rate, but it's usually a little lower. Third, you will have an ATM fee and a bank fee. The bank will charge you for using some other bank's ATM fee, and the ATM will charge you for using their ATM. So you'll have some fees when you use an Israeli ATM, but you will be able to get shekels straight from your bank account using your debit card or credit card in an ATM machine if you know your credit card PIN code. So yes, you're good to go on that. There are not that many ATM machines as some people might think. You'll find a few, like City of David, there's one right outside the museum, but you won't see a lot of them. But at the end of the day, you'll have some free time, and we can take you to places to do currency exchange and find ATM machines. There's some areas where those things are found, and we can take you there, and you can take care of that business. Yes?
I was going to put my pocket knife in my second luggage.
Mm-hmm.
Carry a pocket knife.
Yeah. You're good to go. Some of the sites that you tour will not allow you to bring your pocket knife in, so you need to know that ahead of time and plan on leaving it in your bag on the bus. But other than that, you're fine with having your pocket knife at most sites. You know, some of them have security, metal detectors you go through when you go in, and we'll know when we're getting to those. So, yeah. You know, it depends on how many people are expecting gifts when you get back. I mean, if you're leaving a spouse behind, I would say bring a little more. If you're buying big stuff, like you can buy some seriously nice artwork there, and you can buy some seriously nice diamonds there. You can buy diamonds there cheaper than you can buy them anywhere in the U.S. I mean, there are diamond wholesalers there. So if you plan on buying those big ticket items, you can use a credit card for that. So you don't need to bring big money. But for buying lunches, lunch is going to run you anywhere between $10 and $15 a day. And I think we're going to cover 2 or 3 of your lunches for some special events. But other than that, most of the days you need, I would just plan on bringing $15 a day for lunch. And then for gifts, I would say you're good to go, depending on whether you're buying nice gifts or cheap gifts. The scarves, Kathy, how much were those scarves for the ladies? They were like 3 for $10 or something. So, I mean, you can buy the really nice silk scarves for like 3 for $10. You can buy the carved olive wood little trinket statues for $10, $20 a piece. You know, so I would say $100, $200 should get you through gift land, okay, you know, and trinket land and snack land and all that. You really don't need money for things other than lunch and whatever trinkets you're going to buy. You could survive without bringing any spending money and just having money for lunch. You could even survive without money for lunch because you get a buffet breakfast and a buffet dinner, which is why we stopped including lunch in the price of the trip, because when we included lunch in the price of the trip, most people would get to lunch and go, "We're eating again? I'm not hungry." And it'd be a waste of money to buy them lunch, you know, because it would just all get thrown away. So if you eat a big breakfast and you eat a big dinner, you know, you're going to find yourself at lunch just going, "Yeah, I think I'll just have a falafel," you know, and then you're like $2, $3 and you're good to go. And a Coke, which is another $2, $3 for a Coke. But you know, I mean, it's not going to cost you a lot. And you know, some of you, you know, when you're walking a lot, you get real hungry, and then you're going to spend a $10 to $15 on lunch. But for the most part, if you're eating that buffet breakfast and that buffet dinner, and you're really filling up, you should be fine. You really bring some power bars, and you won't even need lunch every day. It won't be something you're craving. So, any other questions? Yes, sir. Dry cleaning, Yes. Laundry, yes. They all have laundry services. Now, somebody asked me about laundry. You asked me about laundry. The thing about laundry is it takes the hotels anywhere between 24 hours is expedited, which costs a little more. If you don't want expedited, you have to give them 48 hours. And I usually get it back in 24, but you have to give them like 48 hours. And so by the time when you get to Jerusalem, you don't have enough laundry to send in. So by the time you have laundry accumulated, we're leaving Jerusalem already. You don't have time to send it in. We're only one night at the Dead Sea. So the only place you're really going to need laundry is in Tiberias if you're not bringing enough clothes for the whole trip. So when we get to Tiberias, you can send clothes in when we get there, and it'll be back in a day or two, so you'll have it before we leave. But other than that, you don't have, because we're changing hotels so much, you don't have a big window for laundry. You can still do laundry in Jerusalem, but again, what are you going to have accumulated by then? 2 days worth of stuff, so you're not going to have a lot of laundry to send in. But you can still do that, but you can't send in laundry if you don't have the turnaround time to get it back. That's the biggest catch with the hotels. So, yes, ma'am. I don't remember how much taxis cost, but if you use a meter cab, they're reasonable. I remember their normal cab prices, but I don't remember what it was. I just know that they have meter cabs, and you just pay whatever the fee is, and it's a reasonable thing. If I remember right, it's actually a little cheaper than U.S. cab prices. So it shouldn't be bad. By the way, as far as laundry goes, for those of you that just run out of socks or underwear or things like that, at Walmart, they sell these little Tide travel packs. They're not the boxes like you get at laundromats of powder, but they're like little sealed packets of liquid laundry detergent, like gel laundry detergent. And if you bring 1 or 2 of those, you can just wash your clothes by hand in the room and hang it to dry in your bathtub. You can't hang your laundry on the balconies. They don't like that. But some people have done that, and we've gotten complaints. So I'm just telling you, you can't do it. But you can hang them in your bathtub. Remember, you have a roommate, so don't subject your roommate to your drying underwear. Just be courteous of them. But if you do your laundry and then hang it before we go out for the day and let it hang all day while we're out, then when we come back, it should be dry, and you take it down, and it doesn't bother anybody, and you get it dry that way. So you can do that. And most of the hotels have a laundry line in the bathtub that you can stretch across the bathtub and hang things to dry. And so I kind of anticipate you're going to have that. So go ahead and bring a little travel detergent with you, and you can wash a lot of your little things there. And I wouldn't wash blue jeans that way, but because they won't get dry on time. But as far as the smaller things, you'll have them dry in no time, and you can wash them that way. Yes, ma'am. I've heard different reports on that. I could go to dinner like this, just fine, and girls can too. Girls can too. And what you'll find is when you've been walking all day and you're with the same crowd, after a while the dress code goes down, and you're kind of like, I'm just going to be comfortable today. I don't care, and that's okay. That we can all love each other like we are, and that's all right. And the hotels, the meals, what they don't want you to do is go there in your bathing suit. Go in day attire like your walking attire for the day. So for ladies, sleeves. Make sure you have some sleeve. No sleeveless shirts. Make sure you have sleeves, and that your pants, if you're wearing pants, go down below your knees. And you should be okay with that. Bring layers because it gets cool in the evening. And when you're on the bus, make sure you're bringing some long sleeve, light thing in case we go to, especially in Jerusalem. In the north, they don't care so much, but in Jerusalem, there are places where the Orthodox don't want to see ladies' skin. So it's like, okay, you must wear long sleeves here and a head covering. And so you want to make sure you have on the bus something long sleeve for when those times come, and your head covering, some type of shawl or scarf or something you can put over your head, and then you're okay. For the guys, the only time you need head coverings is the western wall, and just please don't wear tank tops during the day. Make sure you're wearing something with at least short sleeves. Yes. What's that? Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it, but I've never encountered that. I don't think we've had any tattoo problems there at all. In fact, a lot of them are tattooed, aren't they? I mean, I think a lot of them have tattoos. I don't think that's an issue. Men don't have that many issues there. Very chauvinistic society. And so men, if men start getting issues, you just get real belligerent and go, "Oh, what's your problem, man?" And you sound Jewish, "Oh, he must be Hebrew, leave him alone," and they leave you alone. For the ladies, they do tend to run into more problems, and so chauvinist guy happy, but make sure you're comfortable. So, any other questions? Any questions in Texas? About what? Medications? I have never had anybody have a problem with medications if they're in even those little daily, containers. Yeah, I've never had anybody get questions about medication. If you're bringing a big bottle of Valium, it's probably a good idea to make sure you have a prescription on that, or some kind of medication that might be a narcotic. Then you might want to make sure you have the bottle with your name on it so that they know you're not trying to smuggle narcotics. But other than that, if you've got some kind of diabetes medicine or some type of medicine that's not a narcotic, then nobody's going to question you on it. Nobody's going to challenge you on it at all. You will not have any problems whatsoever. But again, if it's a narcotic, make sure you have a bottle with your name on it so that they know, hey, this is legit, this is mine. So a narcotic or an opiate or anything like that, make sure you have a bottle with your name on it. So, okay? Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So, did you hear that? If you have an inhaler or if you're bringing needles because you're diabetic, make sure you call the airline and find out what their policy is on that. Yes, you'll always have an opportunity to grab lunch, whether it be at a street vendor where we're getting falafels or at a mall where there's a food court, but you'll always have an opportunity to get food. We will not make you go hungry, I promise. Say that again. That's right. Well, this is not a Baptist trip, so you have plenty of food, and the one thing you will not complain about on this trip is going hungry. You will not go hungry. So you're going to eat real good. We are going to go to, how many of you don't like fish? Any of you not like fish? Okay, if you don't like fish, we're going to need to hear that when we get there, because there is a place where we're going to go eat fish, St. Peter's fish, which is tilapia, and it's delicious, and they grill the whole fish and lay it out on a plate in front of you, and it's absolutely tasty as can be. But if you don't like fish, they'll bring you chicken instead, but you will eat good, so don't worry about that. The Middle Easterners love to eat. So you will not go hungry at all. So, all right. So let's go ahead and spend a little time in prayer, and then, yes, sir.
If the Texans try to slaughter some cattle while we're there, will we all get in trouble?
If it's not a red heifer, you're okay. If you slaughter a red heifer, we all have problems. So, but if you slaughter any other cow, I heard you Texans can barbecue, so we'll join you. All right, let's go ahead and go to the Lord of prayer. And Josh, you can stop recording. Yes, sir. Thank you, Josh. I'll just open us up in prayer, and